All right. Good afternoon. Please join me in welcoming our webcast viewers. So once again, my name is Anita McCuitt. I'm an executive member of the Canadian Club and your host for today. Viewers on the webcast, thank you for joining us. Our club strives to bring you a diversity of speakers who cover the issues that are top of mind. We embrace diversity as a core value of our club and strive to reflect this not only in the topics but in the speakers who present them, and today's guests are perfect examples. Before I formally introduce them, let me tell you about the club's remaining events for the season. On Tuesday, June 12th, the club will present its annual Lifetime Achievement Award to the Right Honourable David Johnston, former Governor-General of Canada. And on Tuesday, June 19th, we'll be hosting a Pride Month event called LGBT on BAY. Our distinguished panel will talk about the importance of being out and your true self in the workplace. To order your tickets or learn more about the club, please visit our website at canadianclub.org. You can also join the conversation via Twitter and Instagram by following us at CDNClubTO or by using that hashtag. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Borden Ladner Gervais, BLG, represented by Lale Moshiri, for generously sponsoring today's event. And to our youth and young leaders present here today from Queen's University, Smith School of Business, my alma mater, welcome. We're glad you're here. And now, our guest speaker. Canada's technology sector continues to drive innovation and economic growth. But when you think of tech leaders, who comes to mind? A recent report issued by the Brookfield Institute at Ryerson University says that female participation in the tech sector has stayed the same for the past decade, between 23 and 25%. And despite efforts to promote STEM programs to females, the gender imbalance in this important sector continues. What can and should be done to close this gap? Who better to answer that question than the president of a technology powerhouse? Marianne Yule leads HP Canada, where she's responsible for the company's business operations. She brings more than 20 years of experience in the Canadian tech sector, and she's deeply committed to leading the industry on diversity and inclusion efforts. Before joining HP, Marianne was Vice President and General Manager of CDW Canada. And under her leadership, CDW Canada ranked as the top technology solution provider in Canada and one of the top places to work for women. She currently serves on the board of directors of the Information Technology Association of Canada, ITAC. Joining Marianne in conversation is Eva Wong. Eva is co-founder and COO at Borrowell, a fintech company. Twitter Canada named her one of 20 tech startup founders to follow and is featured on the 2017 Women in FinTech Power List. Members and guests, don't forget, if you have a question, please fill out one of the Q&A cards at your table, and our staff will collect them. Marianne, Eva, the Canadian Club of Toronto podium is yours.
It's so great to be here having this conversation on this stage, and I know Marianne is really excited to share her story as a woman in tech and her perspectives on talent and diversity with all of you. So we've heard your bio, but it'd be great to hear a little bit more about your journey to becoming the president and CEO of HP Canada.
Yeah, the million-dollar question. The journey in the short story is hard work, ambition, a little bit of naivete and courage combined. I don't know what that term is. We need a new term for that, because courage sounds a little egotistical, but it was a little bit of fearlessness, just throwing it out there. The longer story is I started my career in technology in a financial services organization as the executive assistant to the president. And from there, it was actually a really great job, and I thought this man that I worked for, Henry, was brilliant, and I had this kind of professional crush on my boss because he was so smart, and I thought that all leaders must be so brilliant like him. and I wanted one day to be Henry. So that was kind of and I did some really good work for him that was different, and at that one point I said, Henry, I'm really busy with all this other stuff. I'm working with the legal team on redlining agreements for you. I'm working these things. I said, I need an admin to help us with this administrative stuff that you hired me for. So we hired an admin for me. And then I moved into marketing roles and had progressively more marketing advancement in my career. And my last marketing role was VP Marketing at Toshiba, and then interestingly enough, worked there, had a great job. We did great things, great numbers, great results. And a new leader came in and asked me to leave. So my lesson learned was you can deliver great results and still be asked to leave an organization, which is okay. The lesson learned is that, and that you know how to negotiate a package now. So those are good things to learn. And then I left. So at that point, I was a VP of a tier 1 company looking for another opportunity. Kind of tough to find the same thing. So I searched for an organization that was innovating, that was doing some interesting things that would allow me to be me.
Yep.
So the fit was important. And so I stepped down and took a job as a director of marketing for CDW. And at that time, when I joined CDW, we were like a $50 million company that was acquired a year before by this US powerhouse. And eventually I rose to lead that organization, and we went from 50 million to about 700 million in 9 years, and EBITDA grew faster than the top line. So it was an exciting ride. And then HP, CDW and HP were each other's largest partners, and my predecessor at HP was retiring, so I was having dinner with my now boss, saying, hey, so what are we doing in Canada? How are we managing the business? What's the plan for the transition to the new leadership? And during this dinner, it almost turned into like this professional date, because we started talking about what he was planning to do and what I did, and it excited me. And so I joined HP because it was this new organization, and they were looking for a different, reinvented company. And one of the items that spoke to my soul when I met with my boss at the time was that they wanted to hire someone that would bring positive, disruptive change to the company. So
that's amazing.
That excited me, yeah.
That's
so
great.
The journey. That's a long story.
No, that's great. And I think not the typical story, right? I'm assuming that the previous president and CEO of HP Canada didn't start as the executive assistant to someone.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But I'm going to have to ask Lloyd. No, I don't think he did.
Yeah. No, that's great. And it sounds like you came into HP as a bit of an outsider.
Yes.
Do you think, I'm going to steal a question from Matt Galloway, who's a professional at asking questions, so I feel like I should steal questions from him if I can. He asked, does having sort of an outsider status help you be successful? As an outsider to HP and a bit of an outsider in terms of the industry, how did you feel? Do you think that that's been sort of helpful in your success?
Oh, I think so. I think that, this is back to that whole topic of diversity of thought, right? You show up with a different perspective, a different lens through which you look at challenges, people, it's problem solving. So that was my entree into HP. Well, I knew them, I didn't know them. You don't know anybody until you get into the organization. So for sure, that would be an advantage of being an outsider. And then the other outsider in the industry overall, being a woman in technology is an advantage to you. You get advantages as a result of that. You have to recognize that they are an advantage, as opposed to the woe is me for a long time, like it's hard.
Mm-hmm. Tell us more about that, because I think we do hear a lot about the disadvantages of being, whether it's a woman or another person from an underrepresented group. What are some of the advantages of being a woman in technology? I
guess the moment that it turned into something for me, I worked at Toshiba, and I was part of this, and I worked at Toshiba. It's a great organization. At the time when I worked it was a 100-year-old company run by 100-year-old men. So I was part of this global e-business committee team, and we had representation all around the globe on how we were going to, do different things in the e-commerce space as it was embarking. And I'm one of 2 women in this room. And if you've ever been to a big Japanese meeting from a global organization, sometimes somebody will have a nap, somebody will chat over here, they'll be on their devices, there's a whole bunch of noise going on while people are talking. So when I chose to say something, the whole room went quiet. Everybody stopped talking, they woke up, they stopped looking at their phones and their computers, and they're like, ooh, big blonde girl's going to speak now, right? So it's like, my gender commanded the room. So I realized that I have something there that I can take advantage of. And I think today, in the current state of most organizations that have an agenda to diversity and inclusion, I think underrepresented groups and women have advantage. And we should take care of that advantage now. There is this window. The first thing is, of course, you need to be able to do the job, and you have to have the experience set, and it's a meritocracy first. But your gender or your underrepresentation will give you a little bit of advantage today, and you should take it. Because for many, many years, centuries, whatever, you have not had that advantage. So take it now. It's yours.
Great. I'm sure there were challenges along the way. You sort of hinted at one. Is there a specific challenge that you'd like to sort of highlight as something that you've overcome, and any lessons learned from that?
Sure, there's challenges. I mean, yeah, we all have challenges, but one of them, I guess, is when you first start becoming, advancing your leadership in a male-dominated environment, you go to a lot of these kinds of things. And this is great because it's a very diverse room. Oftentimes it's not. It was all just a bunch of guys. So I would walk in. I remember one specific time I was at a reception, and I walked into the room, and there's like 50 people, all with their cocktails and blah, 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 and there's all these circles of men. And I'm like, I don't know where I can just kind of imbue myself into a conversation. So I saw this one circle that had a little bit of a space, so I thought, oh, I'm going to walk into that one. So I walked in there, and the guy was talking about his hockey injury. And as soon as I walked in, he looked at me and went, oh, never mind, I'll tell you guys later. I'm like, really? Right? So he would not, and then the group kind of got uncomfortable and disbanded. And now I'm standing alone with my cocktail. I'm like, oh my gosh. So the funny thing about that is that when that happens to you in that moment, I felt like I was 10 years old at camp first day again, right? So those emotions that you have from those early days as a person come up, and I'm like, hang on, I deserve to be in this room. I've earned this. I'm here, and I'm going to continue to charge in and meet people and make it happen. I guess the learning is to tolerate the feeling. I'm not going to die by feeling embarrassed. It feels like you're going to die, but you're not. So just keep charging, and you've earned your right to be in the room and make it happen.
Or insist that you want to hear every detail of this guy's hockey
Yeah,
injury.
so what happened? No way, that's terrible. You got I never thought of that, actually. I went 10 years old instead and went, oh no, I have no friends again. Right. my juice box, right? The other thing is, so that's kind of the guy thing that's a challenge. The other thing is interesting when you start up and coming early in your career, when there were not a lot of women in leadership roles, the queen bee mentality of women. So we women have a responsibility to nurture other women's progress in their careers. I was in a meeting, and I was very early in my career, and there's all these brilliant VPs that worked for Henry, and this manager that was a woman who was in this room. We'll call her Sally. And all these people are struggling with this problem. The only reason I'm there is part of the work that I execute on, but I'm not the thinker. All these people must be way smarter than me, and they're struggling with a problem. And they're going around and around and talking about it. And I'm sitting beside Molly or Sally or whatever I called her, and I'm like, hey, I whisper, I think the answer is 1, 2, 3. And she's like, shush, shush, shush. Okay, so now I'm back to being a little girl being shushed again at the table of adults, so I'm going to be quiet. And there's a conversation, and all of a sudden she says, excuse me, gentlemen, with drama and flair and panache. Excuse me, gentlemen. The answer is simply 1, 2, 3. And they're like, oh, that's it. Thank you so much. It was great. I'm like, I said it. And I thought, what a witch. Like, she didn't give me any props. She didn't do, if anything, it changed the dynamic between us. It changed my confidence in her as being a mentor, as a woman that I had respect for, that I thought would help me advance my career. So I guess the lesson, well, that was an interesting challenge, but the lesson for me from that moment forward was that anytime there is a woman or an underrepresented group or an underrepresented person, regardless of gender or group or anything, my job as a leader is to make sure that I help them excel.
Right.
Right?
Right, that's great. So I do want to remind you that you do have cards on the table. If you've got any questions for Marianne, she said the more provocative, the better. So definitely feel free to ask. I think the only thing that's off limits is don't ask us how much we weigh, I think was the,
right.
was
or we're
the only
gonna
thing
lie.
That's on there. Yeah,
Just so you know.
But yeah, do feel free if you've got questions, please write them down on the cards on your table, and then we'll make sure that we've got time at the end for questions. So let's switch over to talk about talent.
Sure.
So Dominic Barton, who is the global managing director of McKinsey, has written a new book called Talent Wins. And I think it's fascinating that of all the topics he could have chosen to write about, strategy, obviously, as the head of McKinsey, AI, machine learning, environmental sustainability, the rise of Asia. He spent a lot of his career in China. He chose to write about talent. And I think what he's saying is talent is the competitive advantage, is the value creator. So amidst all the priorities that you must have at HP, how does talent play a priority, and how do you make sure that stays as important as it should be?
I mean, we talk about it a lot, and I think all of us intuitively know that the talent is what's going to make it happen. Whether, at HP, whether it's the talented engineers that develop and design brand new, outstanding technology that's the world class, the world's best, that's talent, right? In my Canadian organization, as a leadership team, we talk about talent, whether it's when we're promoting individuals, hiring, creating new roles, new projects, looking for the right people that have the right stuff in order to put them in those roles and stretch individuals. We have a tendency, I think lots of people, to kind of look when there's a new thing that has to happen, some magnificent new project or some difficult project, you kind of look at your leadership team and go, I'm going to give it to that leader because I know them, I trust them, they're going to deliver for me. Instead, we've kind of stepped it down a couple of levels to say, let's start developing these people so that they stretch and they show us, because they have these brilliant abilities. They just haven't had the, perhaps, opportunity to show us everything they've got and for us to see and help them through it. So we're doing a lot of discussion on that to make sure that we have the right talent. We also look to hire leaders in all roles. You don't have to be a leader with people as a leader, a manager, or as a title, but as a leader in your functional area, or whatever you do is in your job. So we make sure that we're hiring more and more people that are leaders. And I encourage everyone to own their career as far as talent. So, as a company and as a culture, we're trying to make sure that all our employees are in the job that is the most rewarding for them, because then they will deliver the most for themselves and for the company. We will all win. It's also, employees have to own their own career. So it's part of a culture of that. I've had lots of
What do you mean by that? I think that's really interesting.
You have those meetings with people, right? That somebody says, hey, can I talk to you? It's like, sure. It's like one, they'll go, I want you to be my mentor. Great, about what? I don't know, just mentor me. So you need to have so employees you need to help them understand what that looks like, or what it should be, or what they could be. And the other one is, I'd like a career path. Fantastic, have at it. Knock yourself out, make a career path. You need to at least have some idea of what you'd like to do. And if you don't know what it is, because you don't know there's a title or there's a job that exists, because as a little girl growing up, I only knew there was 10 jobs: doctor, lawyer, astronaut, nurse, school teacher. They didn't know that there was all these other areas. So as leaders, we have to spend time with our employees to talk about, so what is it you love? What makes you excited every day, so that you can figure out where their authentic self will do extraordinarily well in a role that we have or will have or can have. And then they need to figure out how to make that path work for themselves. That's the ownership of your career.
Right. I know that you've talked a lot about agility as well. And in a company the size of HP, I'm sure you've got business priorities that you need people and roles for. How does that talent and agility, what's the balance between those two? And how does one support the other?
Well, they certainly support each other. I don't know if there's a balance. I think it's just inherent in both, right? Given that our dynamic is changing so much faster than we've ever seen, particularly in technology, it's essential that we have the agility in our organization, and therefore our people, in order to change rapidly with the rapidly changing market dynamics, and/or the ability to anticipate those changing dynamics. So continuous learning for certain. Lots of discussions about how do we do things differently. Growth mindset, embracing the ability to do something differently and being okay with failing. The other F word, people are afraid of failing because you have to try something new and you have to be perfect at it. You can actually try something new and struggle and maybe not be perfect at it, but figure out what you've learned with your team, and your thoughtfulness and data-driven and that kind of stuff. So it's embracing growth and trying new things and making sure you've got a team of people around you that are going to help you be successful at it.
How do you sort of create that room for failure? Because I think I'm part of a startup, and so this is something that we encourage as well. But a lot of times people don't like to fail, right? You hire high achievers, you hire these leaders, and they don't like to fail. How do you sort of create an environment where it's okay to fail?
Part of it is reframing it so that it's not that, hey, we're going to have a failure attempt today. It's, because if you tell people, we're going to try and fail, everybody figure out a project that you might fail at and learn something. Yeah. It's, one of the things that we did at HP recently is, I don't know, I was about 6 months in the job, and we had a leadership meeting, and we were talking about the ability to achieve something, whatever it was, 10, whatever that thing was, the number 10. And they're like, yeah, we can hit 10, we have all these obstacles, we can hit 10. I'm like, great, okay, so how do we hit 20? And they're like, oh, we can't hit 20, we have all these obstacles. I'm like, yeah, the obstacle's at 10. We still have the obstacles, so how do you hit 20? And they're like, oh yeah, I guess we can. And it was interesting because different people, I saw lights go on at the moment thinking, yes, we can. So then when you dream the art of the possible, and that's kind of the exciting part of it, you dream the art of the possible, and then you figure out the path to get there. The path may fail. It's not that you set out to fail, right? So it's dream the art of the possible, have data-driven information, collaboration with people that are smart, that will be able to help you get there from here. And then along the way, you may fail. So just a tolerance to it. And then the leadership team to be tolerant of it so that we help people learn.
Yeah, that's great. So obviously, for both HP and for Borrowell, diversity is a huge part of the talent conversation. I thought I would just get a bit of a poll of the room. So I'll give you 3 options. It'd just be great to understand sort of who's in the room and where you sort of feel like you are as it sort of comes to diversity. So the 3 options are: do you feel like you're a diversity expert? Do you think you're sort of informed and fairly comfortable? Or would you consider yourself a novice, but you're sort of interested in learning more? So just a quick raise of hands. Who would say that you think you would consider yourself a diversity and inclusion expert? Come on, Michael Block. You run a company that does this.
Hands up.
So, yeah, hands up. I'm sure there's more. Okay, I feel like people are being modest here. Raise your hand if you feel like you're fairly informed, you sort of know a bit about diversity, and you're pretty comfortable with it. Okay, that's great. And then how many in the room would say, I'm a novice, I don't know a ton about it, but it's an area that I'm interested in learning more about? Okay, that's great. That's great. And so I think like our challenge is to make sure that for the diversity and inclusion experts that are in the room, we've got something for you, but that we have something for everyone as well. So maybe you can start by telling us like why diversity is important at HP.
Diversity and inclusion are important everywhere, not just at HP. It's a business imperative.
Yep.
It drives better performance in companies, full stop. So even if you don't like the idea of it, you like to satisfy your shareholders, and you want to hit your bonuses. So diversity and inclusion, those organizations that have a diverse and inclusive environment outperform their peer sets in the median performance of EBITDA, cash flow, a whole bunch of different metrics. Financial metrics that add value to your organization. So that's important to everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's really important. And for those of us that like talk about diversity and inclusion a lot of times people are saying you should just do it because it's the right thing. And I think sometimes we forget that there really is a real business imperative to it. And
isn't that cool that business and the right thing are a coincidence?
It's great when that happens. And so I understand that before you joined HP, you really researched to see whether or not diversity and inclusion was a real priority and wasn't just lip service. How do you figure that out before you join a company? You sort of mentioned before that it can be hard to really know what a company is like before you join it. And I'm sure there are either people here who are looking at new opportunities potentially or are recruiting people to their organizations. How did you make sure that this was not just lip service, but a real priority?
Well, I knew HP, which was a good thing. So
Right.
I kind of knew that what the leadership team looked like and what they were doing as an organization. I know that from the top down in the company, diversity was important. It was talked about, and it wasn't just a poster on walls and we're going to have a Diversity Day celebration cupcakes. So there was actual real programmatic things that were designed and developed in order to make sure that there is diverse hiring, diversity of thought, inclusion of all employees globally. So I knew that. The other thing, I mean, they were looking for a leader of the HP organization, and they were talking to me, and I'm a woman. So that was already an indicator to the positive. I think you just have to start doing the homework. You can look online. You can see who's on their board. HP has the most diverse board of directors in technology in the United States. So you look at that, you kind of go, that's meaningful, that's material. They've made a specific decision around that, and the rest of the leadership as well. So you start looking at it to see if it's real or if it's just talk.
Right. And I'm sure since you've joined HP, it hasn't been 100% smooth sailing. Have there been have there been detractors or people who would say, you know what, like diversity is a nice to have, but it really is like an HR thing, and it's not really a key priority for me as a business leader?
I'm not seeing that in Canada, actually. I'm not seeing it anywhere. No, it's great as an organization. I think what's interesting now, and as we continue to evolve, the definition of diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Because today the definition, or the old school definition, is gender and cultural background diversity. Now, if we look at millennial hires, the diversity, that to them is table stakes. That's just called people. That doesn't have a moniker. So now it's more about diversity of thought, the inclusion of ideas, the collaboration of teams, getting people from different parts of the organization to contribute on things that are significantly material that perhaps used to be corner office discussions only. So it's a different kind of look at what diversity means.
Yeah, and you mentioned it shouldn't just be talked about at the management team level. How do you make sure that there really is like buy-in all the way through the organization, and that it's actually actioned in person, that the diversity and inclusion and belonging actually happens not just in those corner office discussions, but is throughout the culture at HP?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we celebrate it, for sure. There's lots of noise for any sort of celebratory occasion. It's Pride Month, congratulations, it's awesome. So we have a lot of activities around that. We celebrate when it's International Women's Day.
Right.
We celebrate, Native Canadians. There's a lot of groups that we continue to celebrate. So if you accelerate and celebrate, as long as you continue to bring it to the forefront, and it's conscious and everybody sees it, then it just becomes imbued in the culture, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, good. Lots of questions. One of the things that we found really helpful at Borwell, I'll just mention, is we've recently introduced an employee engagement tool. And I think that for us, it's a great way for people to submit questions and answer questions, and a good opportunity for us as a management team to get a finger on the pulse of like what people are really feeling all throughout the organization. And it enables like two-way conversation as well. So for people who may not raise their hand and say something, that's been fascinating. To your point around like diversity of thought, people can really raise things that even if you're an introvert, you may not put your hand up.
And we have our annual employee survey like that as well, engagement survey, and our diversity scores in Canada are through the roof. Like we score at something like 98% of employees believe that HP Canada is a diverse environment and values diversity. So
that's great.
We're good on that one and sustainability. So that's very exciting for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. So we did a little bit of audience participation before, so I know you know how to raise your hand, but we're going to try it one more. So yeah, it'll just be, it's very simple. Just raise your hand if you agree with the statement. And the statement is, sexual harassment is not a problem at my company. So if you agree with that, can you raise your hand? Sexual harassment is not a problem at my company. Okay, that's great. So I would say that was about like half the room. Raise their hand to say that that's true. There was recently a poll done of 153 executives, and 94% of them said that sexual harassment wasn't a problem at their company. So, you know, are they better than this room? Probably not, because the same study found that 1 in 2 women report experiencing sexual harassment in the workplace. And I think it can be easy for us as, you know, people obviously interested at least in diversity and inclusion to say like, oh, because we care about this, like there aren't going to be problems at our organization. And my colleague Larissa Holmes is here. She's written a great piece in the Globe, and she's a diversity and inclusion expert. I don't know if she raised her hand, but she definitely should have when I asked. And she, you know, comes from a number of different underrepresented groups, and including the fact that she like broken her foot when she joined Borrowell. But the article she wrote was that she felt like she had been blind to like other kinds of diversity. And I think that can happen to all of us until you sort of like experience it yourself. And I think, you know, it can be easy to say like, oh, because I'm a woman, because I come from this underrepresented group, like I know all there is to know about diversity. But I think like some of the stats are definitely really sobering. A question for you, like how do you make sure that you are aware, or as aware as you can be, of some of the blind spots that could exist either for yourself personally or within your organization?
Well, within the organization, we talk about it, and we do lots of training, and we do unconscious bias training, so part of it is just to be conscious of it. And then also just to question yourself, challenge yourself. One of the things I said at lunch earlier is I need to, because I have, you know, I'm a big proponent of diversity and inclusion, I have to also make sure that the guys are coming along the way too, right?
Yeah.
And I have lots of people, when I speak at this, I have, you know, mothers of sons kind of like, well, what are my kids going to do now? Because I have sons, they're not going to get jobs, it's all going to be diversity and inclusion, and they're going to be excluded. And that's not really the plan at all.
Right.
There's also, I've had guys say to me, wow, you know, you guys have this women's of influence lunch or whatever it is, and there's nothing for white men. Like, and while we can say, yeah, you laugh, right? But you can say, well, you guys have had it good for like a long time. It's like, I know, but I haven't had it so good in the last 10 days, right? So the history of males and those worlds. So we do have something that we have to figure out on that front. But mostly it's about consciousness of conversations, challenging one another, making sure that we have the right people in the organization to propel the company. But it's just talking and education.
That's great. One last question for you, and then we'll get to, there's a bunch of questions, so I want to make sure we have time for those. I love what HP is doing, not just sort of within your own organization, but with your scale, so the pressure that you're putting on some of your suppliers as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's very cool.
So HP has done a very bold, unprecedented thing, precedent-setting thing. Our global legal organization has put out, I think we're calling it withholding.
A diversity holdback.
Diversity holdback, that's the term. Where we are holding back 10% of invoices from our legal partners if they do not have diversity of thought and people on the HP legal business. So it speaks volumes when you don't pay your bill the same way that they expect the receivable to come in. And you know, I'm excited by it because to me, one of the things I love about HP, we're a big company, 170 countries, 55,000 employees, $52 billion, all those amazing things, right? But we take our responsibility as such a big employer to actually make change that's for the positive for the planet. And I don't mean to be soapbox on it, but it's very nice to me that we actually do this, that we drive for that. And the fact that our legal team put that out there, it's fantastic. So I can tell you that BLG, which is a legal partner of ours, I think we pay you 100% of your bill. So thank you.
Because they have a diverse team working on your.
Of course they do. It's BLG.
Right.
And of course they know to do the right thing.
And I think that's interesting because it's something that obviously with HP and your scale you can do, but I think smaller companies can do the same thing. So I see Emily Mills is in the room. She's the founder of a diverse women's group called How She Hustles, and she hosted an event last week, which she made sure all of her suppliers, that the security guard, the catering, that they were all sort of, there was diversity represented there as well. So I think it's something that all of us can think about, of not just within our own organizations, but how can we be agents for change throughout the rest of who we do business with.
That's great.
So, all right, well, let's get to the questions.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, there's a lot in here. Okay, so the first one is, as a leader, how do you address racism and sexist microaggressions at work? Any advice for leaders and employees?
Well, they're not tolerated at all. You see it happen, you shut it down. There's not a room for conversation. It's not a, oh my gosh, let's make sure that the person who is the aggressor has a conversation that's gentle and say, I'm not really tolerant. As you can probably tell, my style's a little bit brazen and a little bit in your face, and that's what would happen. That is not acceptable behavior. So part of it is you shut it down, the other part is educate. Right? And then you have to make sure that the person that is having this happen to them, then make sure they're okay. Right?
Yeah. And so is there sort of like a clear path of sort of like reporting something that happens?
Oh, we have clear paths for many things. Some unclear paths too. We have lots of processes as a big company, which are great. But yes, for sure, there's ways to, you can go directly to your leader, you can go directly to HR. Then there's other paths as well through 1-800 and anonymous kind of ways to do it. There's lots of ways for someone to
report.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. So this is something that I know you've written about as well. The new thing is the gig economy and workforce. What do you see as the benefit of staying and learning within an organization as opposed to jumping from company to company?
I think you can have that gig economy, new learnings within an organization, because so long as the organization is poised to be able to give you those opportunities, right? And to value that people want different experiences. Again, the gig economy is significant for the millennial group that want to learn and figure stuff out before they make a decision that this is what I'm going to be for the rest of my life, which, by the way, none of us really decide ever. But there is a thought when you're younger that you will have that decision moment and you will be good. So you can do it within an organization that values diversity in different places and the ability to provide learning for everyone. Otherwise, the gig economy provides a great opportunity, particularly in organizations that are scaling for projects, so you can go try something new and do something different and learn different things.
No, that's great. How do you merchandise failure to your leadership/shareholders and make it okay? Merchandise, I guess, meaning like sell failure to your leadership and shareholders and make it okay.
You can merchandise it by acknowledging there was a failure, but then acknowledging the learnings. Because it's not just about, oh man, I failed and we're moving on to try something new and I hope I don't fail again. There's something that you've learned as a result of that failure. And what was it? We didn't have enough time, we didn't have enough money, it was not a good idea, whatever, this new project interrupted the path. So those are the things to celebrate that, and then what are those learnings that you're therefore then using in other areas in order to propel the business?
Okay, that's great. Do you think Me Too will stall or grow and keep transforming the world?
Oh, I think Me Too will definitely transform the world. It'll also transform itself, right? Because there's a consciousness around what's happening, and I think that there's, I hope that it's all in a much better place as a result of the, the courage of those people brought forward that message. But I think that too will transform itself as we all continue to transform and as people transform in the environments in which they work.
Right. Okay. What do you think is the next big disruption challenge for HP?
Wow, that's a big one. Next big disruption challenge. I mean, we run to the challenges to anticipate them and see what we can do. So if I look at HP, it's the technological advances and the speed with which technology is changing. Right? We're poised and we have all the right stuff in order to make sure that we have the right talent and we continue to evolve that. It's not perfect, but we're certainly on a really strong path. But the biggest challenge that we see that is an opportunity for us are things like the fourth industrial revolution. You look at 3D printing. HP is a print powerhouse. We have a long history. We've done some amazing work there. We have tremendous market share. Thank you, all of you, for being HP print partners somewhere in your world. But 3D print is going to democratize manufacturing. It's going to create a shift in how logistics and supply chain works. We're going to produce product and product at the point of consumption versus putting it on a ship and shipping it across the ocean. So it's going to change the sustainability model and the impact on the earth. So I think that is a very disruptive area that we're investing significantly, and I think that it's going to disrupt a lot of things. So very exciting.
That's great. So I think we have one more, and this one actually is two. So we've got like 3 more questions, which I think we have time for.
Okay.
As a successful woman leader, how important do you think it is to build self-branding and bring your authentic self to the workplace?
It's way important to bring your authentic self, and that's not just as a woman, that's just as anybody, as a person. Bring yourself. It takes a long time to get there, right? Because it's about confidence and being okay with being authentic, and you kind of have to, I don't know, I had to feel like I had to earn the right to be real. Because I've been told lots of times, by senior men that I worked for when I was young in my career that I'm way too bold, I'm way too in your face, too direct. You need to soften that a little bit. You need to be a little prettier, or whatever that definition is. It wasn't pretty, but that's kind of what it felt like, right? And I'm just like, I don't know how to do this any other way. So when I was searching for roles, it was essential for me to find a place where I can be me. And all of us should be authentic where we work, because when we're authentic and we're who we are, we thrive. Then it just sings to our hearts, is, you know, because we've done things as drudgery. If you can't be who you are, it's terrible. You know that as children, when you had to go to your aunt's house and you didn't want to go there because you didn't like her much, and you had to sit there and be a good girl or boy, and while your auntie's bringing you whatever, cupcakes. Second time I said cupcakes today. I didn't get dessert, I guess. You don't enjoy it. You don't become who the best you are. So authenticity, absolutely, be who you are.
That's great. And I think the question also asked around like self-branding. I think, can that be difficult for women sometimes who are, again, told to, you know, not to be too self-promotional?
You have to be self-promotional with data, right? So you can't just go, oh my God, I'm on this great project and I'm doing a great job. Good, nice. That's just, that's two selfies for me, right? Like, it needs to be something that's more material, and it's got to be meaty. So when you've done some really good work, you can share that with people. You should share that with people. That's valuable for you, for your brand. Yeah. It's important for them to know, and you need people that are advocates and allies in your organization to help propel your career. So if you've done something extraordinary, tell somebody, because your boss and your peer set, they want to know. They want to know that you knocked it out of the park on some project or on some whatever it was that you worked on. Right. People want to celebrate that with you. There's a way to say that so you're not braggy. And if you're not sure, ask your boss, ask your mentor, ask your friends. How could I position this? Because I did this. I'm so proud of what I did. Okay, we'll give you some insights on how to do that. But you should, all of us, that's not just a woman thing, but yeah, yes, sure. Women should definitely self-promote, because we tend to be a little softer on that.
And this is linked. How do you make sure that you lift as you rise at HP to empower other women leaders?
I don't know how to answer that, because it's not like it's a conscious thing. It's like I talk to women all the time. I invite them. They have access to me whenever they want. I make sure that we as a team, leadership team, we make sure that we have diversity represented in all the different areas of our business and in leadership roles. So I think it's just continuing to make sure that we do that there's consciousness in the overall organization to accelerate underrepresented groups and women.
Great. And then the last one, a shout out to the HP Holdback Initiative, and then a question around how you track and measure diversity in thought and process.
Yeah, it's a really hard one, the tracking diversity of thought. Like, how do you measure that? Like, I don't know how to measure that. So it's not like we track it. I guess we can track it ultimately if you believe the theories and the math and the data points that diversity and inclusion generate strong numbers, then you can say, wow, they must be diverse and inclusive because look how successful HP is. That's a direct correlation that would be measurable. But do we have a clipboard and we walk around going, did you have a diverse idea today? Did you have an idea? Did you come up with something new? Like, we're not doing that. So I don't have a real strong measure to say I'm measuring diversity of thought, but it's just that not all the ideas are the same. If we sit around a table and everybody has the same idea, 1 + 1 is 2, 1 + 1 is 2, it's like we got nothing new. So It's more about, are we generating new ideas? Are we collaborating differently?
Right. And I think there's maybe proxies of how you could measure something like that, where you can ask questions of people like, do you feel comfortable raising a dissenting view in a meeting? When was the last time you were in a meeting that someone disagreed with the most senior person in the room? And there could be some things like that sort of get at it that may not be.
We kind of do that naturally, though. I didn't think of it as a thing, because if someone's in the room is quiet, so generally if we're in the middle of a brainstorm session, there's someone there that's quiet, they would probably be an introvert. Introverts don't tend to do a good job in brainstorming. It's not their natural inclination. So it would be then, hey, what do you think? Like, to actually draw that out. I think that we as an organization seek that out from people.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for the questions. Is there anything else, Marianne, that you wanted to leave with the audience before? Oh
gosh, I should have had a better thought on that. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be able to speak with you and share my story. Thank you very much for helping HP be the #1 printer and PC partner of yours on Earth. Know that you are more safe and more manageable than if you were with anyone else. But mostly, thank you for your interest in diversity and inclusion, and to have a desire to continue to propel this in the business environments in which you work. So thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you so much. My name is Michael Bach, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion. I'm also have the privilege of being a board member of the Canadian Club of Toronto. And Marianne and Eva, I want to thank you on behalf of the club for what a wonderful conversation to have at lunch. So when I came on the board 5 years ago, my personal mandate was around the diversification of not only the club's board, but also the podium, the people that we share this stage with. It's a 120-year-old organization, and similar to your experience, Marianne, when I joined, it was run by 120-year-old men. And it has been a great 5 years, and we've done some amazing work in terms of making sure that the podium and the people on the podium are reflective of the city of Toronto. And thank you for sharing all of your knowledge. There were so many things that I was writing down, and a couple that really stood out for me was recognizing your difference as an asset and recognizing that that can be so powerful. I'm gay, probably not a shock to anybody. And if it was, seriously. But that was a real struggle for me. Well into my 30s of taking ownership of that and recognizing that it wasn't a detractor. It was actually something that I could put out, and it could actually help me in my career. And the other thing is being authentic, and those two things going hand in hand, and just taking ownership of it. And that's such a great message. Eva, thank you for being a fantastic host. I do know, and I should point out, I'm not just saying that because my boss is your partner, but I do know Mac Galway, and I'm just saying, if you get over this, fintech startup thing, that's recording. Good morning. Just saying. Before we conclude,
I do ride my bike. I do ride a bike, so.
Excellent. You ride a bike.
Yeah,
You can work at CBC.
basically.
That's
the criteria.
job description.
Right.
That is right there. I want to thank MediaEvents.ca, Canada's online event space, and VVC for live streaming today's event. I also want to thank Borden Ladner Gervais for their generosity, and my friend Lally for joining us today. I also want to point out that the LGBT on BAY event on June 19th is my event, so I expect to see all of you there. You now know, and I know where you live. To learn more about the club, please do visit our website at canadianclub.org. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you at an event very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready? Yeah.